Now, the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the logo placement. Now, logo placement is quite useful in any situation and specifically useful for corporate Toastmasters Club. And we are going to learn a little bit more on why is it useful on photos? Why should we be specifically interested on logo placement on photos or images, as well as what is the size of a logo. Sometimes there are people who are putting very big sizes of the logo on a poster, or so small that it's a bit of a challenge to see. So what is the exact good size and what works best? Then we have also the space around the logo, which will also impact the logo placement. And further to that, when it comes to corporate clubs, this is specifically useful when it comes to understanding why do I need to be worried about the logo placement for our corporate brand, for our corporate logo. So this is where you're going to learn the essence of understanding the corporate logo and the Toastmasters logo and how to make it work for both of them on one poster. Sometimes it's tricky, but today we learn how to manage that efficiently. And with that, I'm going to introduce our facilitator, who is Rose Odundo, who is a Vice President of Public Relations at Zumaridi Toastmasters Club, which is a corporate Toastmasters Club of the KRA. All right, so over to you, Rose. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Angelina. Welcome to all our Toastmasters and our guests. Angelina has already given my name, Rose Odundo, and she has mentioned that I'm the Vice President of Public Relations at KRA, which is a corporate club of Zumaridi. I'll start straight away, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk about logo placements for corporate clubs. I'm going to divide this session into two sections. The first section will talk about the brand recognition, which I feel is very important for a VPPR. And the second section will talk about the logo placement for corporate clubs. I'll ask a few questions, so please let's make it a little interactive. I'll start by giving definitions. Now, what is a brand? A brand is a name or a trademark, or we could say a symbol, which distinguishes a product or a manufacturer from others in the market. What do we learn about a brand? A brand talks of the company's purpose. Why is it created and what does it sell? And again, you'll notice that a brand gives the experience of the consumer as it interacts with the company. What is the perception of that consumer? Another thing I'd like to mention is that each corporate has a mandate. So there's a mandate for wherever you're working at. And that is really important to note. I'll go back and talk a little bit about the logo. And here a logo is a symbol, or we can say a small design, which is adopted by an organization, and it's used to identify its products. So the organization could be dealing, for example, with uniforms or with vehicles or, with communication. And that places a logo. And coming back here, I would say it's a visual representation of the brand of the company. And when you think of the logo, it speaks of the voice of this company and what message does this company want to portray. It also talks of its values, the core values, and it gives you that feel. And it creates awareness about the company. And lastly on this, I would want to talk about the slogan, or we can say the tagline of an organization. Now at this point, I'll ask a question. By a show of electronic hands, who can tell me, looking at the extreme left of the green logo, who can tell me which company that represents? Raise your hand, please. Oh, Krunali, great. Go ahead, unmute yourself and let us know.
Safaricom.
Wonderful, wonderful. Before you go, Krunali, can you tell me about your experience with that logo?
Experience with the Safaricom logo?
Yes. What does it speak to you? How does it?
I think
Yeah.
I don't need to think when I'm on the road and I just see this sign. I know it's Safaricom. Safaricom is here, and it's a Safaricom ad, or this is the Safaricom outlet. Like when I go to the mall and you just see a logo, I don't need to read Safaricom. I just know the Safaricom shop is here. It's faster.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thanks a lot for that. Thank you, Prinali. All right. Now, can I have a different person to give me the logo they see on the extreme right? There's a logo on your extreme right. Are you able to see it? Again, Prinali, yes, go ahead.
Kenya Revenue Authority?
Ah, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now, can you tell us what experience do you have with that logo?
I always see it when I fill my iTax online. That's why recently I've been doing that.
Oh dear, how wonderful. We have one compliant taxpayer. Thank you, Krunali.
Thank you.
You'd make a very good ambassador for Kenya Revenue Authority. Now let's have someone tell me on back to the Safaricom one. What is the tagline for Safaricom, or what's the slogan? Anyone who can let me know? This is free now. Winfred, wonderful. Go ahead, Winfred, and mute yourself and let us know. What is the slogan or tagline for Safaricom, Winfred? We can't hear you yet.
Thank you, Rose. For the longest time, it has been Safaricom the better option, but it recently changed to Inwane. So, though the better option is still in our minds.
Oh, wonderful. What does it mean to Inwane? Wow. Those who don't know Kiswahili.
Let's lift one another.
Ah, wonderful, 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 wonderful. Okay, wonderful, Winfred. Now, finally, can someone tell us on the extreme right? Anyone can tell us for Carrie? Ah, Monica, excellent. Kindly let us know the tagline or the slogan for Carrie. Unmute, please. We can't hear.
Tulipe ushuru tujitegemee.
So thank you very much for those who have let us know what these taglines are about and something on the brand and logo. I just want to share a quote that has been given by Saul Sender, and he says, the strongest logos tell the simple stories. So thank you very much for that. Let's go ahead with our presentation because that was just by way of introduction. And just to let us know that this is the power of a logo and how it speaks and how important it is to be able to represent your organization well. So let's move to the next slide. Now we'll go to the second section, which is the mainstay of the day, logo placement for corporate clubs. I think I would ask one last question. How many of us are in a corporate club apart from KRA? Are there any others in attendance who are part of a corporate club? Ah, Monica, can you just very quickly tell us which club this is and which organization it represents?
Realize Toastmasters Club.
The name of the company?
NW Realite Limited.
Okay, wonderful. What do you deal with?
Real estate.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much for that. All right, so this will be very helpful to you. So let's go straight on to this section of the presentation. Now, we're talking about the placements of logos. And you notice that in a logo, there are areas that are extremely important. There are more than these, but I've just chosen the three. One is the size and clearance area of a logo. Another is the logo format. And the third one is the placement. Where exactly do we place the logo? If you look at this screen, on your right-hand side, top, you'll notice that above the logo, there's what we call a clearance area or an exclusive zone. Or we can say the minimum, what can we say? We can say the minimum unobstructed area. around the logo. It's extremely important to have that so that the logo is visible. TMI does not have any specific size around that logo in terms of the clearance, but recommended is about 1 centimeter either side of the logo. It, however, does mention the minimum size towards the bottom right. And if you're using web, it talks of 72 pixels. And if you're using print, then you need to keep it to 3¼ inches in width. One other thing to note is that we should not tamper with the word mark, Toastmasters International, or for your corporate for that, in that case. We shouldn't change that at all. On the left side, I would also want to talk about the formats of the logos. For Toastmasters, we have 3 formats, basic ones. To the left, we have one in full color, and that's the one I see most of us using. Then on the top right, we have the grayscale. This one is used mainly against a black and white background. And then we have the one at the bottom on the right, which is white, sort of transparent. And this is usually used on the background of a colored poster. And you can download these from the Toastmasters website. Then we have club guidelines about where exactly we are to place the logos. Now the logos, if you have a corporate logo and you're using it together with the Toastmasters logo, just notice that Toastmasters would not want us to place the logos side by side. They want us to keep them apart. So they want them on the opposite sides. So you have options. You can go to the extreme opposites, vertically, horizontally, or vertically, or you can go diagonally across sides. Again, for Toastmasters, they're not very particular. Provided one is up and one is down, they're not very particular which way you go. So you'd have to consult your corporate and ask them what exactly would they want. And by asking, you can actually refer to the brand manual. In the brand manual of each corporate, you're going to get the details of what is allowed. So if I can give an example of, let me just give an example of ours. For example, they actually have rules around the exact size of the logo, what sort of logo should be used. And as we go along, I will give you a few more examples that will actually highlight the point that I'm bringing across. I'll start with this example. This is a logo I did earlier. This is a post I did earlier, and this is how I placed the logo. I believe the logo is visible. And the KRA logo is on the extreme right. The Toastmasters logo is on the extreme left. So at least that way, I stayed within the rules. I was going to ask a question, but I think I will just raise it here because of the interest of time. If you look to the extreme left, where we have the Toastmasters logo, you'll realize I aligned it to the edge. So I feel that I could have moved it a little bit to the right, just to leave a little more clearance area. But the rest of the clearance area is actually quite fine. Looking at the next logos that, posters that I've placed in the recent past, we have the one on the left, which is done in portrait. And again there, maybe I can give one person a chance to tell me what they see. It doesn't matter if you work in KRA, just quickly tell me what you see in that one, please. Anything that you see could be done differently? Anyone raise your hands kindly? Wow, looks like it was done well. Yes, Kunali, go ahead.
I feel the Toastmasters logo just needed a little clearance at the top and the left side, as well as the corporate logo.
Ah, wonderful, excellent. Very, very well put. So thank you, Kunali. So she said it right. I could have left more clearance, but you do notice that I put it against a white background, so it's clear enough. But for example, the KRA logo, it requires that should I have placed it against a colored background, then I would have to have like a bubble around the logo. so that it comes out a bit clearer. Coming to the one on the right, the logos are better placed. You can see there's good clearance, which is not bad. But again, as I mentioned, the logos need to all be clear and they should all be in full. I'll also share my experience in creating the logos. I made so many mistakes at the beginning. And when it comes to the size, you notice that the one I've just come from had it in portrait. But when I want to place it in the KRA communications, they need it in landscape and they have a specific size they want. So for a while I was doing 2 posters, which was quite cumbersome. So now that I realize that TMI are not very fussy about how they place it, I chose to go by landscape. And that's what I use on both sides, which works well. And then I looked again at the font. I had an issue there because you have specifics for TMI. You have the Gotham, you have the Myriad, those ones you pay for. But you also have the ones that you can get for free, which are Montserrat and Sosons Pro. And it took me a while to get that right, but I believe I improved. And again, when you come to corporate, they have their own specifications. So it's important to check with your company what they'd like. Coming to colors, I really got this wrong many times. I'm not sure I'm really there, but I know I've improved. When you go to the brand manual, it gives you the specifications of the right colors to use. That brings out the logo well. I wanted to ask, just for example, when we started with the Safaricom logo. Assume that logo was not in green and it was in red. I believe Safaricom would not be happy with us because it would look like a different company, which probably is a competitor. So it's very important that we stick to the right colors. Looking at pictures, there are approved pictures by TMI standards. I went wrong. I started with cartoons. Sometimes it goes with your personality, yeah? And that's not allowed. Then I went to landscape, it's not allowed. I tried flowers. I was told no, and I was corrected enough times. So I had to go to look at the brand manual, and I found that they prefer that we use something that represents the Toastmasters, and that is meetings and things to do with leadership. So that's my experience. I believe we all have an experience there. I just want to give you an example of the logos that we have in the brand manual and how they speak to us. A logo should be very visible, as we've mentioned on the image. It should not cover people's faces. And the logo should have that clear minimum, clear space around the logo, to the left, right, top and bottom of the logo. So let's have a look at these 2 logos here. Look at the one on the left. You'll notice that the logo is against a busy background. So it's not very clear, it's not very visible. I believe it would have looked better had it been placed maybe on the top right, where it's a bit clearer. And then now we can have a look at the one on the right. And you'll notice that it's very well placed. Yes, it's against a dark background, but it's very visible, right? I believe you can see that. And you can also look at the word mark, Toastmasters. It comes out quite clearly. Let's go to the next one. On the left, we have one which is a letter written by Toastmasters. And if you look at the logo at the top, it's very well done. It's very clear, right? But again, you have to consult your brand manual and you have to seek approval to use your logo on these documents and these posters. And for Toastmasters, they have specifications for logos, when and where to use them. For the purposes of this presentation, we are only talking of posters. I believe there could be other sessions that can expand beyond that in terms of articles and gifts and all. Again, look on to your right and you will see that we have a logo for Toastmasters, which is really clear. And you can see the document is really standing out very well. We have another one, which has the Toastmasters logo. Looking at it, there's very, very clear clearance around it, as we mentioned. It's really clear. And when we look at it again, we find the word mark Toastmasters is again clear. When we get to the corporate logos, again, make sure that your word mark is extremely clear. You have not distorted it, you have not changed the angle, you have not made it longer, but it's well placed. And it's recommended that when you're trying to adjust the logo, just go to the extreme ends. Avoid trying to pull it from the middle so that at least you get the dimensions in order. One last one you'll notice with this one, it's against a gray background. So it may not be as clear as the other one. And these are some of the things that we can look at as we do our logos. But I wanted to highlight the clearance, and it's really, really clear. And you can clearly see that is a Toastmasters logo. It has not been tampered with. Now, the main highlights that we've covered so far is the size of the logo, the fact that there has to be a clearance area. We've said that you need to get permission from your company to be able to use their logo. One thing I forgot to mention in my experience with using our corporate logo, which is KRA, is that I've just been using the lion alone. But the brand manual requires that I actually add the word, or is it the name, Kenya Revenue Authority, to the bottom of that. The tagline, maybe not, but I need to write it in full. So I did it in some, not in others. So that is a point of correction for me, and you need to find what works for your particular organization. Again, we talked about the logo formats. In TMI, we have 3 different formats. And again, we have the same in Kenya Revenue Authority. If we are using a colored background, as I mentioned, I need to have it in a bubble. And if not, preferably a white background brings it out quite well. And finally, we talked about the placement of the logos. Let it not be against a busy background. Don't cover my face with your logo. But you need to place it well so that it represents the company well. So as VPPRs, let's be careful about some of these things. I would recommend and urge you that we all go read the brand manual. It took me a while to know that there's one for TMI. You can download it from the website, and also look at your corporate brand manual, because it brings out very clearly what exactly is expected of us. So that basically brings me to the end of my presentation. And I'll end it again with another quote from Stephen Heller that says, logos and branding are so important. And logo is an identifier, but it's also something that stands in for who you are. That's by Stephen Heller. So remember, when you do that logo and place it, you're speaking of your company, and you want to represent that company well. Thank you very much for listening. I will now give us a chance to ask questions, and I should be able to give an answer to them. And for this, we may not have too much time, but let's see what we have. Prunali, you can unmute and ask your question as I check the chat for any others. Okay, we have just about 5 minutes.
I was just saying thank you for the information.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Prunali. Anybody with a question that you might want to pose relating to the placement of logos? Was the presentation that clear?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So somebody says they did not, Monica, I didn't get it clear. Do I need approval for placing corporate logo? My suggestion is yes, you do. It's important. And especially if it's a logo which is going to be used in a document that is going beyond your organization, right? Because you don't know how it will be used. It may be placed somewhere, somebody else can pick it up, use it on their document, and then it can actually bring problems. Again, let me use ours as an example. One could actually take the logo, innocently use it as they are trying to create awareness for maybe an event that they have, which is paid for. And you'll note that for us, when we do our training, we don't charge. So that would show that to a lay person that KRA is charging, and it brings mixed signals. So it's extremely important. Even for this particular presentation, I had to get something in writing just to be comfortable that it's all right to use our logo, because I know that this logo will go beyond the group that are here. As far as the approval coming from TMI, Angelina can give us a little more clarity on the approvals, but for these posters that we do, I believe that you do not need approvals. But in the future sessions that are going to be done by Angelina, there are some times that you need a logo, especially if you want to place it on a t-shirt, if you want to place it on gifts, if you want to place it on items that look like you're speaking for TMI. But I would ask that Angelina will make it clearer once I'm done with my session. Angelina, are you at a good point to clarify the approvals that we need from TMI kindly?
Yes, Rose, I am. That's a good question. If it's a corporate club, you need to ask for approval from two different organizations. Because it's a corporate club, you're first of all representing Toastmasters as the club, and you're representing the organization that is sponsoring the club. So you need to remember there are two logos you're going to use. One for Toastmasters requires approval from Toastmasters International if you're going to use it for anything other than a poster. So let us say, as Rosa said, a t-shirt or a mug, then you really need to put in what is called a trademark use request. And if it is your corporate logo that you need to use, you need to go to the right department that is responsible for the representation of the logo. So let us say, is it the marketing department? Is it the design department? Who is responsible for the logo? That is the person you need to talk to, because they're in the best position to support you with what is called the brand guide or the brand manual. So for us at TMI, it's called the brand manual, which has been shared with you in the chat. Your organization might call it something different. That's why you need to be in touch with the right department and the right people to support you. Back to you, Rose.
Okay, thank you very much, Angelina. Does that answer your question, Monica? Just put up your hand if you're okay. Monica? All right, I take it that you are. I take it that you are. And as she was explaining that, something came to mind. Oh, excellent, thank you. Something came to mind to just amplify a little more on that. And I was thinking to myself, Angelina, assume you took your logo. I like using the ones I have just used. In the KRA logo, you can see a very friendly lion, right? And assume that I took it and instead I put a mouse, a tiny, tiny mouse, you know? Would that really represent what we are saying here? You have the lion has shown that he's friendly, he's approachable. If you have any taxes that are outstanding, you can come and talk to us and we figure it out with you. You know, amicably, we'll facilitate you in the areas of training you get. And so you'll find that that's probably what we want to show. A lion is majestic, it speaks of authority, it speaks of power. And you know, even when you look at the colors, the color red, it's power, and the white is a bit clear and calm. And even the Toastmasters colors have their place. Toastmasters is about leadership. It's about the way we relate and we talk to our customers and to those who we have as our fellow Toastmasters. And so they have their loyal blue, you know, they have their gray, they have their happy yellow, and you know, all these, and the maroon, true maroon. So these are colors that they want to bring out to portray something. And finally, I'll talk also about the Kenyan flag. If I can look at it as a logo, just look at the different colors in the flag. You have green, white, you have red, you have black. You know, the red represents the blood that was shed as we are fighting for independence. Green represents, you know, the prosperity of the land. And then when you look at black, it represents the people, and white is cool. And then you relate that, for example, to our national anthem. You know, O God of all creation, bless this our land and nation. That's in green. You know, we're asking to be blessed. Yeah. Then in that blessing, as God is blessing his creation in us, you know, we're asking for peace and liberty. The shield is there to defend us, you get. So it speaks even without you having to really. So that's the reason we have to be a little bit careful. You know, as I said, Safaricom, you definitely don't want to put them in red or to put Airtel in green. Yeah. So yeah, that was just to just amplify that. I don't know if you have any other questions before I hand it back to Angelina. Or even observations. It doesn't even have to be a question. Any comments? Okay. So I guess that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very, very much for being a fantastic audience. And I would hope to meet you in the next session. Thank you, and back to you, Angelina.
Thank you, Rose. That was a very good presentation, and you kept it well within time, very professionally done. So thank you for that. It was a joy. And if there are any other questions at all or comments that you would like to make, please feel free, ask them or share them in the chat. And if there are questions that you would like or areas that you would like to be guided on even after the meeting, just do let us know. In the VPPR group, you can always ask people questions. You can also reach out to myself or to Rose, who would be willing to support you further with logo placement. And any other support that you need, just reach out to me or to the VPPR group anytime. Well, with that, I've come to the end of the meeting. We've heard it from Rose, who is a VPPR at the Zumaridi Toastmasters Club. Very eager to see how many of us would like to visit the Zumaridi Toastmasters Club next. So Rose, if you would like, please share the next meeting in the chat so that we make it an effort to join the Lions if they're open to outside Toastmasters members to join.
Very welcome, very welcome. Most welcome. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so that is from Rose. We've learned about one very important area, which is logo placement. So next time you need to put a logo, just remember, if it is with another logo, you need to put them very far apart. Don't put the two logos close in together, either on the sides, above each other, or on the opposite corners, but never close to each other, because that will create a conflict. We don't know who is who. In other places, you find that they put them close to each other, but this brand manual gives us a guideline telling us how to use the Toastmasters logo. So that is how we are going to follow it. And if you are in a corporate Toastmasters club, remember, get in touch with the right department at your organization so that they may guide you adequately and properly. And remember the size. Make sure it is legible. We can read Toastmasters. We don't have to squint, so that the people that you're trying to advertise to, which is internal audiences and external audiences, are able to know and understand who this is. So if Safaricom's logo that had the name Safaricom on it was so small we can't read it, maybe next time when someone sees it bigger, you might not associate with it or associate to it because you weren't able to read it. It wasn't legible. So the size matters, and don't make it too big. And if you have the picture of a person, which is the same size as the head or something like that, make sure it is proportionate. We have been guided for print to make it 3/4 the size, or rather the width should be 3/4 on print, so that it comes out properly and we're able to read the word mark and see the image itself as well. And also make sure that there's enough space around it. Rule of thumb, something like that. I'm not sure if you can visualize that onto a page, but it's like a centimeter, just the tip of your finger over there, or the tip of your nail. So make sure it's a good amount of space between the logo and all the other elements around it. And that helps us to see the logo, differentiate it from everything else. We've heard from Rose at the KRA, they call that, please remind me, Rose, what do they call it?
Yes, they call it exclusion zone. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So at the KRA, they call that the exclusion zone based on the KRA manual.
Or the minimum unobstructed area around the logo. The clearance area.
Minimum unobstructed area.
Around the logo.
All right. so that the logo doesn't get obstructed by everything around it. So that's the purpose of the space. Make sure that it's not the logo is not interfered with. Well, with that, another reminder, do reach out to Rose if you need further guidance on logo placement. And feel free to reach out in the VPPR group or myself on WhatsApp if you need any further guidance with anything VPPR, anything logo, anything posters or videos that promote the Toastmasters meetings or any other engagement that you do through Toastmasters. And with that, thank you, each one of you, for being here. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Florence. Thank you, Krunali. Thank you, Michelle, Monica, and William and Winfred. Asanteni sana.